If you are a silver AD carry who is looking to climb to gold or platinum, this is a great video for you to watch in the background or, while you're just chilling out in between queues. In today's profile review, live on a call, I'm working with this silver player to basically build him a champion pool that's going to help him get to platinum, as well as figure out the biggest obstacles that are currently holding him back, like wave management, what items to buy, what summoner spells to go, and basically the mentality you need to approach AD carry and think about, yes, you can have bad supports, but that is not what you need to focus on. You actually need to focus on yourself. So it's going to be a really good review. Live call. I'm basically answering his questions and building everything he needs to get to platinum in about 40 minutes. So I hope you enjoy it. And before we get into it, if you want your profile review just like the one you're about to watch, please check out the link below and you can sign up for yours as well. Let's get into the video. Okay. And so AD carry is the role you want to play? Is that what you want to focus on?
I've done a lot of thinking about it. I'm not really sure. It's not that it's not the role I enjoy AD carry.
Yep.
Even though I get told all the time that AD carry is the worst role in the game and there's no point, but then I'll see a challenger AD carry player be like, AD carry is the best role to climb on because it's so overpowered, but then everyone else is like, yeah, the role sucks. So I don't know what's going on here.
Yeah.
I feel like queuing mid, I would probably climb faster, but I like the role of AD carry because it's also considered one of the hardest roles in the game.
Yep.
So I don't know. I guess, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Yeah. So coming back to that point you made, you'll notice that every player, that there'll be players in every role that say their role is the hardest or whatever. Maybe except for like supports, because support is pretty overpowered for how little you need to put in. So I would say, don't worry about what other people say. It's more about what you want to do, which it sounds like you want to play AD carry, as well as what you can, you're best at, and finding the balance of enjoyment and being good at it. So competitive, fulfilling that nature, and having almost a split of well, okay, I might climb faster on mid, but if I don't enjoy it, well, is that worth it? Is that how I want to do this? And so from what I'm hearing, it sounds like AD carry, yeah, maybe you climb a little bit slower, but if you're enjoying the role a lot more, I would say, yeah, go with AD carry. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what role you choose. You could pick top lane, right? And you'd have to do some learning to catch up to speed or whatever. But at the end of the day, it's never going to be the champion you play or the role that holds you back. It's going to be how you play that role or that champion, if that makes sense. Inherently, top lane, mid lane, support, jungle, AD carry, you can get to challenger on all of them. Same with champions. There's a one trick in Masters, GM, or for every single champion in the game. There's a guy, fucking Pinkward, he plays Shaco top, and he's very high rank. So at the end of the day, it's not the champion or the role. It's how you play them. So I think AD carry makes sense for you.
Okay, I'm down for it.
Awesome.
I like the role a lot.
Excellent. And then champ pool, what are you thinking? Because you've got a big champ pool, and remember what I said about splitting the two accounts. Right. We could almost have an A team and a B team, if you want to think about it like that.
Right now, I've only been playing Xayah every single game that I can.
Yep.
And it's I will literally just take first pick to pick Xayah. If Xayah gets banned for whatever reason, the backup option normally will just auto shift to Jhin. Either Jhin or depending, I guess, on what's open. I'm comfortable. I say this even though I'm silver 2 and I don't have positive run rate on most of these AD carries. I'm comfortable with any AD carry that I can I feel like I can win no matter what character I'm on. But there's gaps in my macro and thought process of the game that lead those champions to kind of fall behind.
Yeah.
So it's normally just Xayah or Jhin.
Okay.
and that's pretty much it. If those two are banned, I will default to um, literally anything
Okay.
that like looks good for the game. Like even Caitlyn, I'd lock in, or yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah. Nice. I like that. Um. Okay, that's a really good champ pool. I mean, like, are you happy with that? Like, if I said for the rest of this season you got to play those 3 champs, do you think that's realistic? On
Yeah,
your yeah.
I think that's realistic. Yeah.
Okay. Because at some point, right, we've got to start whittling this champ pool down, and maybe you could be. And I talk to players like this where they're like, actually, I want to play a bit more for 3 months and kind of learn. Like, I don't want to. I don't know about Zaya, Jin, and Kate yet. I like them, but I do want to still explore my Draven. I think I can make it work, or my Samira or whatever. But yeah, if you're confident on those, I'd suggest we start kind of narrowing that pool down because. I don't know if this relates to FPS, but it's kind of like, I guess in CS you have like a sniper, right? And then you have like, I don't know, like someone who goes an AK or something, right? And they're slightly different play styles. And so maybe you could switch between both, but generally it's going to take you, hundreds of hours or something in each one to actually get mastery. And it's the same in League with roles and champions. It's like if we're constantly switching because there's so many roles and champions, it's not the same in an FPS where there's like kind of like 5 or 3 different roles or whatever you can play. There's so many different champions and they all have different abilities that if we keep switching, yes, we're going to overall eventually improve our skill level, but we're never going to get very far because all the players who are climbing, they're playing with a small champion pool or they've found the one trick that they love and they're just spamming that champion.
Right.
Because it's kind of the meta for climbing, if that makes sense, in League of Legends, is a small champion pool, ideally one tricking. And then what I recommend players is, well, you take a step back from that and figure out how serious you want to be. Like, the ultimate way to climb is to one trick, but then you got to relate, okay, that's the ideal way to climb, like theoretically. But in reality, how do I actually want to play the game? And as long as you marry those two and find that perfect balance for you, that's perfect. And that's what I think we're doing on this call, which is good.
Yeah, I'm like I said, I have no issue one tricking. I think that's probably my favorite way of playing. I find a champion that's somewhat interesting, and I'll just one trick them.
Good.
As many games in a row as I can.
Okay, I really like that. That comes on to another thing. Okay, strategy. So I would ideally like you to one trick Zaya on this account, and then you have your second account, and you're maybe using that second account to either polish up on your Jin or your Caitlyn, which are your backup champs, or you're all of a sudden like, oh, I actually want to one-trick Kai'Sa. And so instead of playing Kai'Sa on this account, which you're trying to get to Diamond, you use your second account to train up your Kai'Sa and get like 20 games, maybe in 30 games, 55% win rate, and then be like, okay, cool, I'm ready to bring Kai'Sa to my main account. And that's when you start playing her. And I think that is a strategy that could work for you for the rest of this season. Based on what you're saying.
Yeah.
Does that sound like a strategy?
Sense. Yeah, that sounds good to me.
Awesome. Okay. Well, usually I use these calls. This was a bit of a custom call, but usually I do these calls to talk about, if a player actually wants one-on-one coaching, game reviews, all that kind of stuff, and a mentor as they climb through ranks. Obviously, that's a paid service. But if you have any questions, I'm not sure if you're interested in that, but if you have any questions that you want me to answer as well on this call, we've got like 15 minutes or so that we can just shoot the shit, or I can tell you more about our paid programs.
Okay, we'll do a little bit of both, but how well do you know AD carry?
Awesome. So I actually have so as I said on the call, I play all roles up to about a D1 master level. And so my specialty is helping any role get to Diamond. That's like my trademark as an individual. And then I have a challenger AD carry coach, because AD carries are generally the ones who get the most coaching, and sometimes they do want that challenger coaching experience. And so I do have a challenger coach that offers AD carry kind of mastery session. So if you're thinking about, is that kind of what you're going on with the question?
Well, I was kind of, not necessarily, it does help, but I was going to ask more AD carry specific questions. Like,
Oh, yeah,
um,
go. Yeah, I can answer those questions. Sorry. Yeah.
okay, I take Ghost Flash every game on Zaya, and I start Cole pot.
Yeah.
Thoughts?
It's rigid. It probably won't be the reason you lose the game as long as you play accordingly. But generally, if you're always playing Flash Ghost, sometimes Cleanse is going to be the better option. Ghost is very strong at the moment, but sometimes it's going to be Cleanse Flash depending on the CC on their team. So particularly champs, don't think about champs like knockups, like Nautilus. Cleanse isn't going to really help you, but like a Thresh is going to help you. A Lulu, it's going to help you. Basically any champion that has like a stun, like a Taric, all that you could consider going Cleanse. But yeah, Ghost is generally the staple summoner spell, and then you'd interchange Cleanse if you're like, oh fuck, I've played this matchup before and it's rough with just Ghost. Like I need that Cleanse to get out. Because something I've noticed here is your deaths are quite high. So one, you could just be a bit of an aggressive player. Maybe you're limit testing a bit, but also you're probably just dying too much by mispositioning and not being able to get out. Because, I mean, if you're playing Flash Xayah with Gale Force and you've got 11 deaths, like there's something inherently wrong there. Because you've got a lot of escapes there, yet you're still dying. So it might not even be, you know, Cleanse would have reduced 3 deaths this game, but it's more just like maybe you need to focus on positioning a bit more. But coming back to your starter items, so you always go Cull Pots. Again, it's okay as your standard, but again, you want to think about, okay, Longsword 3 pots is really good for, let's say, a heavy poke lane. Like, if I'm going against Lux and Jin, I need Longsword 3 pots because the Cull, you're going to get fucking pushed out of lane at like level 2, level 3, and then you're playing that game of where you're just sitting under turret trying to farm until the enemy jungler dives you, or you get a recall, but the enemy's never going to let you recall, so you just slowly bleed CS. And then the Cull's kind of useless because you don't even get to stack it properly. So it's basically almost always Cull or Longsword at the moment. Doran's Blade is viable, and again, you're not gonna win or lose the game if you go Doran's Blade versus Cull. I would say Longsword three health pots can save your lane if you're versing heavy poke, so that's probably the biggest one that you should implement. But Doran's Blade, you don't really need to implement that unless it's like a semi-pokish lane where maybe you're versing like like an Ezreal Thresh, and so there's a bit of poke there, so you want the extra health from Doran's Blade that Cull doesn't offer. And you're trading that off of, okay, I'm not going to, I guess, get that 300 gold bounty or whatever it is when you finish your Cull, 300, 350, can't remember. You're not going to get that, but at least you're going to have that extra bit of health. Also, you know, if you don't want to go Longsword 3, let's say into Draven, but you know he chunks your health a lot. Again, Doran's Blade could be better than the Cull. If you don't want to go the Longswords, but you do want to go, you know, Cull, you probably can't go Cull in that matchup. You'd have to go a Doran's Blade. But again, you could probably get away with it.
Okay.
Sorry,
normally
that was a long
I would
answer.
go Longsword. No, it's good. Normally I would go Longsword. 3 pot into poke lanes, but recently it's been so I saw Balfs posted a video about
yeah, I've watched it.
the bounty system.
Yeah.
Okay. So I was like, dude, that's fucking absurd. This
Great.
company's so dog shit.
Yeah.
And I was like, whatever. And so I wasn't gonna build Cole, but then I was just gonna build Longsword 3 every game. But then I started looking at like what higher elo 80 carries were doing. I have a master's 80 carry friend,
Nice.
and I was just asking what, you know, like is Cole like what I should be taking? Is it like not what I should be taking? And he was like, yeah, Longsword 3 is still good, but Cole's pretty good for most matchups. So I was like, oh, okay, well, all right. I don't really know what matchups I should be taking what in. Besides, you know, double range is pretty pokey. So normally, but even then, like last game I just played, was a misfortune Vigar, and I took Cole. Kind of regretted it.
Yeah.
But it was whatever.
Yeah, and I think again, this is something players will eventually realize is you can't apply challenger theory to silver.
Right.
Practical. And so challenger concepts and master player advice is good, but you've got to then go, okay, that advice is good, and then bring it into your real world and be like, okay, yeah, Cull's a good item, but like it's silver. If my support's like 0-4 and I don't even get to play the game, maybe the longsword 3 was better because at least I can 1v2 with that, or 1v2 at a little bit better.
You've been spectating my games or something? What the fuck's going on here?
Yeah, well, I know every single trust. I've talked to hundreds of AD carries, and it's funny. They always say it's the support's fault. It's never their fault. It's always the support. And when I talk to supports, guess what they say? It's always the AD carry fault.
AD carry.
Yeah, and so yeah. And the thing is, like in silver, gold, because I usually do like unranks to like platinum or diamond when I want to learn new champs, and so I just recently did that for AD carry. I recently did it for top, and the thing I notice a lot about like bronze, silver, gold games is you're gonna have a lot of throwaway games where it's like, oh, my support is literally like brain dead, and it's like, cool, I can't do anything about this, so all I'm gonna do in this game is like, I know it's probably a loss, so all I'm gonna do is play and practice playing from behind. Like, oh, could we get this dragon? Or could we do this? And I think that's a much better mindset to go in instead of just being like, my support's dog shit, this game's over. Well, you're stuck in there for another 20, 30 minutes. You may as well use it as like a practice tool of like, okay, cool, what can I do here? Let's do a little bit of limit testing. Maybe we can get back in the game. And so I think that's a really good mindset that people need to shift on, is like, stop focusing on what others are doing and just focus on what you can do in the situation you're in. Yeah. And that's what I've noticed in like silver, gold. There's a lot of inconsistencies where if you're always listening to like high elo 80 carries, like if you're just watching Gumayushi VODs and then you all of a sudden play into silver, it's not going to translate very well unless the game is very stable. Because you watch a challenger game, it's very predictable. Oh, cool. Right. Laning phase is very consistent. It's very rare they get like a 2v2 kill. It's almost always a jungler coming in. And then, in Challenger, you can basically understand the jungler's path because there's the most efficient jungle paths in a certain meta. But all these things get lost in silver because your jungler doesn't know that you need to gank bot, that because bot lane is like the meta at the moment. Like ganking bot, getting your AD carry ahead is literally the meta in League. But in silver, that isn't necessarily the meta, because if your jungler doesn't know that and the enemy jungler does, well, you're kind of fucked. Right. So just being understanding of like, okay, I'm going to get a lot of inconsistent performances on my ally teams, but that also translates to the enemy teams. So it's a variable I need to be aware of, but it's not a variable I can use as an excuse or a reason as to why I can't climb, which is not what I'm saying you're saying, but I think... Right. If you start saying, I get bad supports, well, then the enemy AD carry has the exact same chances of getting the bad support as well, if that makes sense. Because 2 supports are entering that game. Maybe even one's an autofill, and you might get the bad luck of the draw. But over an entire season, those odds even out. Where, your AD carries you've versed generally have probably had as many bad supports as you have. And we just tend to notice the ones on our team because we're focusing on them a lot more.
Right.
So I think that's just a good way to make sure. A lot of players get very toxic in League very quickly. So I'm trying to save you from that hole before you dive into it. But maybe you're quite a positive player, so you may not have that problem. But that's a good one to keep in mind.
Yeah, sometimes I just kind of just sit there and I'm like, I mean, it's not what I would have done, but fuck it.
Yeah,
can't think about it. So I just kind of
and there's
write it out.
Yeah, and there's a lot of theories of like there's like I think Broxer calls it the 33-33-33 rule, where you're going to win 33% of your games no matter what. You're going to lose 33%, but it's that 33% where it's close. You could potentially carry. Maybe you're losing 1 lane or 2 lanes, but the game isn't over yet. Or maybe the game's really close and you guys are slightly ahead, but if you die in this next team fight, it's GG. Like, those are the games you really want to play for. And you can usually identify those games because they're generally games that aren't over by 15 minutes. And like, those are the games you really want to focus on. Like, you don't really want to focus on wins. You don't want to focus on on losses, like those 33% of wins, 33% of losses. You want to focus on those close games where it's like, oh shit, there was a game deciding moment here. Like, did I do something wrong here?
Yeah, it's funny. I actually, I think it was last season towards the end, I saw that theory and they were just talking about it, and I was like, huh. So the more I focused on that theory, the more self-critical I was about how I was playing, because I was like, this normally here when I would say, well, my team kind of sucks because they didn't do anything for the first 25 minutes, but then I kind of entered in a fight and then I lost. I died, it, making it like what felt like kind of my fault because I died here, and if I didn't die here, then maybe
Yeah.
that was like the window.
Yeah. And did you find that to be like, so some people react to self-criticism differently. Did you find that to be a good experience or a bad experience overall?
I think overall good.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah. Because
I
some
think there
people
were
are too
times where
self-critical.
yes, I think there were times definitely where I was more like, okay, so I'm just playing bad and I don't know how to fix it
Hmm.
because it seems like every single one of these games is winnable, and I just keep losing. Um, so it became more of like it is like just all on me and it's my fault,
Yeah.
instead of rather like the other outcome being that it was a mix of both. Because at first it was like, oh well, my team's trolling, but I'm gonna try my best. And like, oh, my team sucks, we lost, whatever.
Yeah.
And then the next game I'd go like 25-0 because one tricking Draven is it's a false sense of security because it's like I'm going. I have games where I'm going 22-6, but then I have games where I'm going 0-11, and like
Coin flipping.
it's
Yeah.
yeah, it's just a coin flip because the champion's so strong, but I don't know how to play into certain
Yeah.
bot lanes.
Yeah.
So then I lose, or my support doesn't know how to play with the Draven, and they're more of a kind of a poking support, or they don't want to really fight. So I think the other thing is that I never looked at my supports and what
Hmm.
they like to do,
Yeah.
um, and so I didn't play for them. I was playing to win. I want to play Draven. I want to go in. Yeah, so I don't know.
No, that makes a lot of sense. It sounds like you've learned a lot along those mistakes and stuff you've made along the way, which is good. And that's why I always encourage players, like, if you want to try Draven, try it. Just make sure it's on another account, because the experiences you learn on that champ are going to be great. Like, learning that, yeah, you have to kind of match your support's playstyle sometimes. Like, if you're trying to be aggressive as a Draven, yet your, like, Sona support is playing so far back under turret, it's like, well, you're trying to fit a square peg into a round hole. It's just not going to work. No
Right.
matter how hard you try and get that in.
Unless you
Um,
shave the edges.
yeah, yeah, exactly. So yeah, that's a really good lesson, and a lot of AD carries need to learn that is adapting your playstyle on the fly, not only to your allies but also to your enemy. Like, if you know this enemy support is dog shit, it's like, take advantage of that, and like, you can have your preconceptions in game and like during champ select and during load screen of like, okay, Xayah fundamentally beats Kai'Sa. But in silver, anything can happen. Like, maybe this guy is like a 300k Kai'Sa and he's actually really good. So you kind of go in with a preconceived idea of like, okay, on paper, Xayah wins this matchup. Okay, let's play it out. Oh shit, this Kai'Sa's actually pretty good. Oh, she's beating me in CS. Okay, cool. I need to respect this. Like, go for a couple of trades, and you kind of like keep testing until you basically get their number, and you go, oh, okay, this is how she plays Kai'Sa. She's really good. I'm just going to respect her and go even in lane. Or, okay, she's not that good. She does this all the time, and then I'm going to kind of, be aggressive at this point when she goes for cannon minions or something. And you start kind of analyzing on the fly. This is like the next step once you can actually, and this is why champion mastery is so important, is once you know Xayah like the back of your hand, CSing and all that shit just becomes like breathing. Like, you don't
Right.
even think about it. And then you're thinking about, oh, this Kai'Sa's positioning a little bit too far here. I'm going to activate my feathers, get a pullback, and then get a stun on her. And like, you start thinking about, oh, 10 seconds ahead, oh, 5 seconds ahead, 15 seconds ahead. And then you start going, oh, where's the enemy jungler? Oh, he's just cleared his red buff. Okay, cool. He just ganked mid and he pathed down bot river. Oh shit, we got 15 seconds till we get ganked. What do we do?
Right.
And so you can start thinking further and further in the future, as well as further and further outside your little AD carry bubble. Because everyone gets in their little bubble, they get tunnel visioned. And that's why mastery is so important, is because all the basics become like breathing, and then you can just expand your thoughts onto bigger, more macro focused things are generally what you need to focus on. So that'll come in time as you get better and better on a champion, and that's why one tricking is so OP. or one of the reasons.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I definitely noticed that while the further I go on a champion,
Yeah.
it's normally like the better I get to play with the team rather than playing by myself.
Yeah.
So I definitely agree with that point.
Oh, awesome. Any other questions? Because I just wanted to wrap up one thing, but I'm happy to answer any more questions first.
Okay, great. So, two things. Firstly, I was going to ask about waves. Second, I was going to ask about your coaching rates, challenger, coacher, everything like that.
Cool. I'll just get up a map. Yep, talk waves to me.
So me no understand very much. If I'm being honest, it's not that I don't understand the concept. It's I don't understand how to really utilize each of the concepts, if that makes sense. I think it's called LOL Planner, by the way.
Oh, I'm just gonna fucking use
Oh,
this.
that works. Dude, this is perfect. I love this.
Okay, cool. So basic math, right? Each minion wave has the same amount of creeps, right? So
Yes.
if the enemy wave has more creeps, it's gonna push. If your wave has more creeps, it's gonna push. Let's actually maybe go through go more in depth about what you know and what you don't know, because you said you know concepts but you don't know how to apply them. So maybe let's start there.
Yeah. So like freezing, just pushing a wave. If I want to recall, normally 3-wave crashing for a dive. Normally with the jungler, or depending on like what's going on, 3-wave crashing to get whatever. I would assume we could also get plates from it, but mainly just like I will either try to 3-wave crash or I will try to just shove the wave so I can reset. Unless like I don't know when to freeze, I guess, or like when I should be just fast pushing a wave, or when I should be slow pushing a wave.
Got it. So okay, there's a few concepts here. So a 3-wave crash, you don't really need to be doing that in silver unless you're like on comms with the jungler, or the jungler is specifically stated they're going to help turret dive here. Because I just wouldn't recommend a 3-wave crash, because AD carry recalling to get a 400 gold item or whatever, it's not really worth it. So what I'd much prefer, which is a lot more stable and consistent, is just keeping the wave even and focusing on poking and last hitting. Because in silver, you don't actually have to know how to 3-wave crash or anything. Like, you can keep doing it if you're finding success on it and you're able to get platings and you're able to abuse and get leads from it consistently, do it. But if you're finding like it, because you're saying you're not able to apply these concepts, so if it doesn't feel like it's translating into anything, we'll just keep the wave frozen, and generally you can out-CS a silver player because they're not focusing on last hitting as much as you are. And as an AD carry, last hitting is basically where all your income's coming from. So that's what I'd say about general wave management is, if in doubt, just freeze it. And then if you ever want to fast push, the only reason to fast push is, 1, you want to recall. 2, you've noticed that the enemy AD carry and support have like gone to help Dragon, and your jungler's topside, right? So you just can't, you're never going to be able to contest this. So you've got an uncontested wave here, so crash it and try and get a plating for them getting Dragon. Because you're basically trading. You're like, okay, you guys get Dragon, well, we're not going to let you get that for free. We're going to make you lose a wave of XP, and we're going to get a plating for it. And, it's not an optimal trade, but it's the best you can do because your jungler keeps ganking top lane. So that's a good example. They're basically the two of when you would fast push. And then the other one is like, and this happens a lot, is the fucking AD carry might just recall randomly. And you're like, oh, what the fuck's he doing? I'm still in wave. I'm still in lane. And maybe it's because he's on 20% HP or whatever. Well, then you just fast push and then recall. Or you fast push, get a plating, recall. So that's...
When would you say if like I'm not sure if they recalled or not, when would you say would be a good time to break the freeze and then just push?
Well, you can choose to recall. So if you've got a freeze that's like 2 to 3 minions, so the enemy lane has 2 to 3 minions more than you, and you've got a cannon wave either fighting at the moment, or you've got a cannon wave as your next minion wave, well, you can just recall if you're not sure. So you can keep it frozen until you're unsure, like, or you can push it.
Okay.
But the thing is, you kind of got to test and learn. So as an AD carry, you'll start developing this intuition of like, oh, I reckon the enemies are recalled here, because you can tell by their movements, and you can usually tell, oh, I'm on a similar goal to him. I'm at BF sword or something as an example. He's probably at BF sword as well. So if he's disappeared off the map and isn't contesting this wave, and we've got good vision and we know where the enemy jungler is, okay, he's probably recalling here. So you kind of got to use a lot of information, but eventually your intuition will eventually be like, okay, cool, he's probably recalled, let's push this in. Because at the end of the day, even if he doesn't recall, you've got priority in the lane, which is really important. And priority basically means you get to shot call what happens in that lane, if that makes sense. So for example, if the AD carry disappears and you've got the wave there and you've got good vision, so you know that he's not trying to bait you for the enemy jungler, well, you've got priority over the lane. So now you should push it so that you get the tempo advantage, which means you get to recall and he misses CS and you come back to lane with a wave that's now pushing back into you because you got it to crash. And so when a wave crashes, it automatically bounces back and it'll eventually crash into you, but not before you recall. Sorry, that's a bit too complex, but
No.
that's basic theory of it. So you develop an intuition, but if in doubt, you either freeze it if you want to really piss off the enemy AD carry, because there is nothing worse than freezing a lane as you get recall. So like if he's forced to recall because he's on 20% health, well, you freeze the lane. But otherwise, he's probably not going to recall randomly unless he's like clearly got a buy window, or he thinks he does, or he's very low. So yeah.
Okay, cool.
And then
That's actually very helpful.
No worries. And then what was there another?
Coaching rates. That was it.
Ah, yes, coaching rates.
And
yes. So we have there's basically so we've got 3 coaches. I'm just trying to think how to put this, and then we've got one-off session prices for them, and then we've got monthly coaching packages. So one-offs start from $30 US, which is with our high diamond coach. Then my challenger AD carry coach is $40 US a session, and then I'm $50. And when I say session, it's usually 60 to 90 minutes. And for someone who hasn't had coaching before, generally it's like an introduction where we'll go through your champ pool. Like obviously I've already done it with you on these calls, but it's like you'd go through a quick introduction, what you're struggling with, champ pool, and then you'd get into a game review and spend about 45 to 60 minutes in the game itself. And then so it'd be like an intro, then the game review, and then homework and what did you learn at the end, if that makes sense. So that's how we at lolcoach.academy run our one-off game reviews. So yeah, 60 to 90 minutes for that, 30 to 50 USD depending on which coach you want to go with. And then we also do monthly coaching packages, which are just a bit more personalized, and kind of like what I've been telling you here is you develop a relationship with your coach, and rather than just being a transactional, you get like one review here and then you never get coaching again. It's more about, okay, you want to go from silver to diamond. Cool. Let us take you on that journey and fix every roadblock you're having. And so what that includes is a monthly review. You get a spreadsheet with trackers on it. So what are the key statistics you need to focus on this month? It's your CS, it's your goal difference at 15, it's your kill participation as an example. And then we build into your homework into that spreadsheet so everything's tracked. And then you also get 24/7 Discord support. So you can basically message your coach whenever you want, obviously time zones and stuff. Maybe they don't reply at 3 a.m. But you can basically ask them. And so the idea is like you have that review once a month to fix the biggest issues. And then throughout the month, you can just talk to them about like, oh, I had this really tough matchup today where it was like I was playing Xayah and they were playing Draven and they just did this really weird thing. Like, what should I do in this situation? And then the coach can answer and you're like, okay, cool, I learned that. And then a bigger problem that starts repeating over and over again, you're like, okay, shit, we need to review this for our next session. And that's what you do for the session. And so that's just a monthly thing. And the idea there is that like coaching is great, like as a one-time session, particularly for new players or players who just want to dip their toes. And for someone like you, I'd probably recommend just getting that one-off session. But after that, if you're like, oh shit, that was really good, I want more, that's when I recommend a monthly session, because you actually get to have a coach follow you through your journey, which is really important because Silver 2, you're going to have different issues when you're in Gold 4, when you're in Gold 2, when you're in Plat 4. And so having a coach that knows your history and has gone through your Silver journey, your Gold journey with you just makes it all a little bit easier. So again, you basically just add $10 to those prices. So for my high diamond coach, it's 40 US a month for that. For my 80 carry challenge coach, that's 50 US a month. And then for me, it's 50 US a month as well. So I charge the same. But yeah, one-off sessions are probably what I'd recommend for you. But what are your thoughts?
I'm not really sure, you know. I think the idea behind the monthly is like very good. It's just like, and then also like the one-off, like I feel like it's helpful because like it might fix one issue.
Yeah.
Or it might help me realize one issue, but then I don't think it'll actually fix that
In
issue.
one
Like
session.
it'll just yeah, like I think it'll just like make me aware of it, but then I'll have like more questions than answers, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. So
I don't know, that's where my headspace is, I guess.
got it. And what I can do is I can give you completely risk-free. So what I'd suggest is if you want to get that one session and see how it goes, because I think that's the best way to start. And then if you want more coaching, well, you just get more coaching. But I'm happy to give you like 100% money back guarantee if you, after the review, you felt like it wasn't what it was or you didn't learn anything from it. So I'm happy to do that for any of our coaches if you want. But yeah, that's how I'd suggest you do it. Like get just one session and you might find that after that session, you're like, oh, fuck. Okay, the coach gave me actually a lot of homework here. Okay, this is going to feed me for like a month, but I know I'm going to have problems in a month. So let's just use that review and that knowledge and the recording that you'll get after the session for the next month. And then once I feel like I'm stagnating again or new problems arising, that's when you're like, okay, cool. The monthly coaching, let's go for it now. Or let's just get another one-off session, see if I can go for another month or two. That's what I'd recommend. And again, no decisions have to be made on this call. Take your time.
Right.
But that's what I'd suggest, and that's what players in your situation usually do.